Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. Welcome to the first edition of LATOKEN VCTV this week, the first edition, and I am speaking out of Lagos, Nigeria, and we have two panelists right now going to be joining me on this topic, investing in clean tech and green tech. What is the future? We thank our audience for joining us from all parts of the world. If you're listening to us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, you are welcome to also be a part of today's show simply by making comments in the chat box. And if we have questions or input, we will be reading them out during the show. And today, this is another call out to projects that are interested in investing or interested in exposing their projects. You can come and pitch your projects live on VCTV and get feedback from our audience, from our panelists, and get the exposure and all the funding that you need. As the show goes on, we'll be dealing with a lot of issues around this industry, and we look forward to your input and your feedback. Like I said, my name is Nathaniel Oluwatomi Amida. I'm reaching you from Lagos, Nigeria, and I want to introduce my audience, obviously, from different parts of the world. Can I start with Kingsley Kobayashi? I guess this is the first time we'll be on the show together.
Yes,
So please give the audience your background and all
I
that.
have been with LATOKEN or speaking with LATOKEN for a very long time. I attended their conferences in Tokyo, in Zurich, around the world. But when they started VCTV, sorry, I lost my voice a little today. When they
It's
started
okay.
VCTV, I was one of those who actually I was logged in Lagos, Nigeria, Victoria Island to be precise, and I had the first one, Sonny Mohati, at the time, and from there, LATOKEN have been doing very well. I'm happy with what they're doing. So my name is Kingsley Kobayashi. I'm a serial entrepreneur, chairman of and founder of Kobayashi Group, which incorporates of Hurricanes International, investment, HBK, a pharmaceutical company, blockchain investor, and we do everything in Kobayashi Group. We invest, we fund, we structure projects on blockchain and outside blockchain.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for that, and thank you for your feedback. Introduction about yourself. The audience will be paying attention to your experience and your expertise. Shalish, I know you're from Bangalore. Kindly give me your background. Let the audience know who you are. Let me know who you are.
Thanks, Nathaniel, and good morning and good afternoon, everybody, all the viewers of VCTV. And this is Shailesh Salvi calling from Bangalore, India. We are early stage VC focusing on B2B enterprise tech startups at early stage. In fact, we started way back in 2014. We've done about close to around 22 startups funding, and we hope to do another 7 to 8 startups in this calendar year, and to take the tally to 30 portfolio companies. So we are sector agnostic, but we've done some exotic deals in green tech and clean tech space, and will be very happy to share my perspective on those fronts.
Oh, definitely. I'll be looking to pick your head on the kind of investments that people should look into from this year going on. So thanks for your introduction. And
Thank you.
I guess all the way from California, Gary.
Yeah, no, right
Thank you for
now
joining.
I'm in Palm Beach in Florida. I'm going out to California in another 2 weeks, but it's
Awesome.
it's great to see you today, Nathaniel. So no, my name's Gary Fowler. It's good to see my friends, Kingsley, yourself, and Shalish. And I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've been involved in 17 companies. Been involved in 2 unicorns. Click Software sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion. Also, Eva.ai, $1 billion AI HR tech company. I'm the CEO, president, and co-founder of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios. We curate companies from all over the world, and recently we came back from Nigeria for a week, And my partner met with you, Nathaniel, and had a good time, he told me.
Yeah.
So they're really good, met a lot of interesting people, a lot of really cool companies. So it's great to be here. We focus on AI and quantum computing.
Oh yes, Gary, it was an awesome time. Derek had meeting projects firsthand, seeing all the developments and stuff, and I think that's the benefit of going global and sharing on a platform like this. So I think I want to jump straight into the topic of today and see how it pans out. And thank you for the comments coming in from our audience on Facebook. I mean, keep the questions coming, keep your insights coming, and we'll be willing to share. So quickly, I know that for the first time, the Biden administration in the U.S. is committed towards investment in green tech, right? The Green Deal in Europe is there, promising more investments in the green economy, and then the plan China has for carbon neutrality by 2060 is a big deal. Now, the question I have for Shalish, starting from Shalish, is what are the investment sectors that one or investor can look into in the coming years? Is it solar? Is it EV? Is it hybrid? Is it, I mean, give me your insights and your suggestions in this regard.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Nathaniel. I think, as you rightly said, I think Biden administration has basically re-entered the Paris Accord, or rather, Paris Climate Treaty. That is the single largest, I would say, the important factor why the clean energy and green tech would make a VC business going forward. Because US is the most, I would say, the binding factor as far as Paris Treaty goes. And we foresee that going forward in and around EVs, you will find a lot of activities and a lot of interest. We ourselves would be very optimistic about the EV as a sector, because the EV would provide you all sort of sectors, including batteries, then battery swapping, battery management, all the things. And I would say, apart from the I would say battery, there would be a lot of, I would say, areas which would be very exciting, like connected cars, or like maybe I would say things like alternate batteries, things like that. So we are very upbeat on the sectors, and EVs is going to guide going forward. I would say the green tech, I would say, revolution, because most of the EV technology would be software driven rather than hardware driven.
Okay, interesting. So there will be much more development in the tech behind the hardware, more than the tech in itself. Interesting. Hi, Kingsley. What's your input? What's your take?
Yes, I think there are factors that push everything forward. The factors that are pushing green energy and environmental tech into right now is the youth. The youth are pushing it very hard. They are aware that their future depends on it. Then you have big organizations who are backing it up. Yes, the president of America is backing it up right now, as well as people like Richard Branson and other important people around the world. And this plays a big factor. But to answer your question, it becomes very regional. Regional in the sense that what Africa needs and what Japan needs is different, depending on the infrastructure. When we are talking about developing countries, we should be looking into solar energy. For now, I am also involved. For the past 6 years, I've been investing in waste power energy in Nigeria, turning waste to power, which means you're actually cleaning the street at the same time, putting power with it, which is a good one. But we also have the solar energy system that is working, because Africa has sunlight 10, 12 hours a day.
About us.
So that's more than most countries have in 3-4 days. So we need to use that. We also need to use the windmill system in connection with solar system, combine them together to create a better grid for the countries. But when you look at countries like Japan, where I live, you have EVs everywhere. You have, they don't even, you take your car, you park it, you plug it there. You have Tesla cars everywhere. We are not that far in Africa or South America already. So it's going to be regional. What you do for a region will differ as per their infrastructure.
Thank you very much for that, Kingsley. And I'm sure that Shalish will probably understand that difference because, like he said, emerging countries have a different set of challenges than developed countries. And it's important, for example, for regions to concentrate on the resources that they have per region. And speaking from a developed country point of view, I'd like to hear from Gary. I mean, investing in this sector, what do you think?
Well, I mean, think about it. From square one, the population of the planet's going to go from 8.1 billion to 13 billion, and yet we've had challenges with global warming. We've got population challenges, and at the same time, we need to better utilize the resources around us. So, in terms of where we are, we need to go down through battery technology, as Kingsley said, is critically important. I know a couple of years ago, I worked on a lithium fluoride battery, which is about 6 times longer, lasts longer than lithium ion. It's a chemical battery. So those kind of technologies, but we've got to be careful too, because I know I just heard that one of the largest U.S. cities, capital of a state, actually is using electric buses, but when they come back to be charged, they have a diesel generator. So there's one thing about the optics, another thing about really doing it. So we've got to go down through an environmental tech. I mean, desalination and being able to get clean water. I know last week I was down in Key West, and there's some serious desalination efforts there. Water is critically important. And as our population increases, we've got to find better ways to be able to get water. At the same time, reducing carbon emissions. There's the push in the U.S. in terms of California to be able to get away with fossil fuel cars. I think it's around 2045, something like that. But those efforts are really need to move forward. And we're at a point now. It's not just about talk. We got to see a lot more action. It's not about, well, maybe we're going to do it. I think we're going to do it. Look at Elon Musk has been able to do. I remember, because my office is very close to where Tesla got started. And I happened to go there, and people were laughing because he came out with this little tiny car based on a Lotus. And I remember people laughing like crazy. Why would anybody want a toy car? This doesn't even look real. It's supposed to be electric. And that was the beginning. And look where we are today. So the good news is, smart cities being able to have real-time inputs so we know exactly what's happening at any one point in time. Smart buildings for greater efficiency. Why is it, when you walk out of a building, I forget lights too. I don't know about you guys, but I forget to flip the lights off. I mean, it's just like stupid stuff. Why not have it motion activated so you're in it, you're around, the lights are on. You're out, it turns off. This is simple. The other thing is about efficient systems, air conditioning, heating systems, putting 6-inch walls in buildings, in houses, instead of 4-inch 2x4s, right? So we got 2x4s and 2x6s and 2x8s. Why not make them more efficient? It doesn't take that much more, but the impact is substantial. So those are some of the things that we're at a point. Then the other thing is, if we look at home systems where you have septics, where you have wells. It's kind of funny because when you get a well tested, it's only at the time you're selling the house. Well, what about the other 10 years when you're living in the house? Do you know what kind of water you're drinking? So all over the world, we need to understand exactly what we have coming in. And now, as we have the Internet of Things and sensors and 5G, it's going to happen. And as the prices come down, it's going to be very, very interesting. It'll be very interesting with artificial intelligence to be able to course correct. There's a problem. Let's put some chlorine into the water to be able to kill it, to shock it. So we're in a great time because we're on really the cusp of something incredible. A tsunami in a positive sense is coming in. It's an evolution.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Gary. And it's clear that clean tech and green tech, environmental tech would not really survive on its own without the support of these other complementary technologies, IoT, AI, predictive tech, and machine learning. It's important to make sure that the result is fully effective, right? But in spite of all these movements in the direction of clean tech and green tech, JP Morgan and some of the world's biggest banks have been accused of investing over 3.8 trillion US dollars in firms that use fossil fuel. Now, the question is, are they to be penalized for this, and what can be done to enforce rapid advancement towards green tech? Shalish, I mean, you're an investor and you know how these things. Will it be ethically right to penalize some of these companies for investing in fossil fuel firms?
Thanks, Natalia. In fact, let me also share the perspective of our investment into clean tech, because all these, I would say the EVs, in case of EVs, almost 50 to 60% of the car cost is battery cost. And majority of the battery technology is revolving around a lithium ion. And lithium ion is a bit very scarce commodity. Again, it's a natural resource, and it is definitely cornered by one of few countries, and that's how the supply has been quite restricted as far as lithium ion goes. And that's why the reason why I would say the car price of EVs is almost, I would say, inflated to the tune of around 30 to 40%. So what we have done, one nanotechnology startup we have funded, and that particular startup, it is founded by the premier institute from India, the IITians. And what they come out with the technology of fuel cell technology, which is based on the I would say the alternate the metal and not the lithium ion. So this is the metal which is called aluminum, and which is I would say abundantly available in India, and which addresses the three major problems for any emerging market or any developing countries. First problem is the lithium ion needs a charging of almost 6 to 7 hours on daily basis. So this particular metal layer battery doesn't require any charging to that extent. Now the maximum range for any lithium ion battery would be, anything around close to around 150 to 300 kilometers max. In case of the aluminum air battery, the range anxiety is, I would say, addressed when the range is to the tune of around close to around 800 to 1000 kilometers. And the third problem is, I would say, the public charging infrastructure. Being aluminum air battery, since it doesn't require that 7 to 8 hours of charging on daily basis, there is no need of any public charging infrastructure as such. Whereas in case of lithium ion, and in case of a country like India, where cars or vehicles are parked on the public roads overnight, setting up the public charging infrastructure is the biggest challenge. And to that extent, since the charging is not required, and the range anxiety also have been addressed, I think this aluminum air battery is going to be a very revolutionary, I would say, discovery. And in that case, in the process, what happens is it's like like if you go to a normal fuel station, you refuel your gasoline or diesel, and you basically start the next journey. So similarly, in case of the aluminum air battery, you go to the I would say the fuel station. They will just replace the aluminum, I would say, alloy sheet, and you are set to, I would say, start the next embarkment or the next journey. And the process is as short as close to around 4 to 5 minutes. So since these are the major problems has been addressed by aluminum air battery, We have funded this along with the Sequoia, and basically, I mean, things are being. We have been, in fact, getting quite a good, I would say, result out of it. In fact, the kind of milestones it has been setting up, it's quite encouraging. And what we feel that going forward in India, since aluminum is abundantly available, the car cost, the EV vehicle cost is basically can be dropped to the extent of around 30 to 40%, which is a quite significant saving, and that's how it become a mass appeal, because now not everybody can afford a Tesla or any EV, which probably with this kind of a battery technology, it can be a mass mode of transport. And that's how, we feel that it's going to be I would say, a spark as far as clean tech or a green tech revolution in India.
Thank you very much, Shalish. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that in the process of developing all these technologies, some fossil will have to be burnt, but then when you see major corporations, major banks supporting these companies, you beg to question, I mean, when will this be limited, or how will this be curbed in the near future? Kingsley, do you see any penalty coming to big banks, big corporations that still encourage fossil fuel companies?
I think it's a debatable issue, but ideally, if at all, a penalty has been levied, then probably it will, ignite the. I would say it will provide as an impetus to the clean tech and green tech revolution. So it's up to the governments at every individual countries to decide on these things.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much for that, Shalish. Kingsley, what do you think? Your mic is muted, so Kingsley, your mic is muted.
To go back to the point straight up, I will tell you that human beings are not used to change. We are very lazy animals. We don't like to change. We don't like to adapt easily. And that is what we are seeing with these companies still investing in those areas. Should they be penalized or not penalized? It's not for us to say. That will depend on the country and the region they are, kind of regulations put in place to decide that. But as time goes on, I do believe those money they have put into fossil fuel can be redirected to clean energy, can be redirected to renewable or environmental energy. This is doable. It's the mindset of the people that need to be changed. That this is not bad. That this green tech or environmental tech is not bad for us. It's better for us. And once the awareness and education is created, human beings automatically follow. So if we go for let's penalize this, let's penalize that, what of countries that don't have the ability to adapt to what is going on right now? What should they do? The whole world cannot change at once. You have countries like Japan, where I live, that if I leave this room right now, the light will go off. Even the toilet, if I go into the toilet, the light goes on. If I leave the toilet, it goes off after a few seconds. So all those things are already put in place because the country is advanced technologically. But when you go to a place like Nigeria, I remember I'm the head of clean industries for Africa. I took lamps to Nigeria with all you need was salt water. You take the lamp, you put salt water, and you light the whole thing up. It was that simple. It was simple technology that I took from Japan to Nigeria. And if you wanted to electrify a whole house, all you need is a bigger portion of those batteries. Pour the salt water, and the light goes on. Simple technology, very simple. Go to the beach and fetch water, or
yes,
take ordinary salt, add to water, and you put it in, and you have light. if you are in the middle of nowhere because your pea contains ammonia, put your pea in it to work. Right? So these are simple technologies that are coming up to help develop countries. Because you cannot expect countries in Latin America or Africa to grow proportionately with Japan, America, or the other developed worlds. It's impossible. It's one step at a time. We have to copy from them. We have to learn what they are doing. We are not there yet. So penalizing them is one thing, but making use of what you have right now and then readjusting investment. As an investor, if I see that, okay, thing is changing, I will redirect my investment to clean energy, which I already did because I was in the early 90s in the oil sector, oil and gas sector. But I have moved that now to clean green energy. So it's adaptation. It takes time, but we'll get there. So it's not about penalizing or not penalizing. The regulation of the state or the country have to decide what they want to do with them.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. And you made some valid points right there because each environment is unique in itself. And I recall a few years ago when a big logistics company in Nigeria changed most of its trucks from being diesel powered to being powered by LPG, liquefied natural gas, LNG.
Yeah.
And that was a significant direction and step in the right direction. And I only wish that there was much more structure in the emerging countries or timeline towards shifting to green tech. But like you said, it's a gradual process. And I think there should be more education to enlighten the public on the advantages of green tech and clean tech. Gary, you are in a developed country and you hear things like JP Morgan investing this amount of money in fossil fuel burning firms. How does that feel to you? How does it sound to you? Is it a step in the right direction, or are we taking one step forward, two steps back?
Well, I mean, let's think about it. You know, that history repeats itself, doesn't it, Nathaniel? In 1901, J.P. Morgan himself invested $150,000 in Nikola Tesla. And then he got Rockefeller put the pressure on him because Tesla was talking about the unlimited distribution of electricity through the ionosphere using the Wardenclyffe Tower and these other repeaters around. So what happens, I mean, some things never change because when you're around people that have insane amount of money, multi-billionaires, et cetera, you don't forget how much they control, right? Literally everything. And we go down and we're, is it good or bad? But I mean, it literally happened in 1901. So he got 51% of Tesla, and then he pulled the financing out after he said he would commit to additional financing. So we've got, on one side, we've got to change the world. And I think it's getting better because there's more impact investing than there was before. They're looking at things like autonomous greenhouses and fuel cell batteries and all kinds of mobile software. And of course, AI involved in a lot of DR, distributed energy technologies, et cetera. But we've got, the one thing about it now is people understand that as compared to before, that we need to make a dent in the universe, a dent in the environment, or we're going to have a serious problem. We've already got challenges with global warming. I mean, the sea level in Florida could be up as high as 6 feet by the end of the century. And so we've got challenges. At the same time, look at the hurricanes in terms of the super hurricanes that have been developing, the slowing down of the Gulf Stream, et cetera. So we see the differences. We do have that knowledge today compared to the early 20th century. So I got to tell you, I mean, I live in Palm Beach, and just last night I was riding my bike around the mansions on Palm Beach, and I know a few of those folks personally. And it's incredible how much power. When you have $30 billion, there's a lot you can do with it, right? So one other thing is to help folks like that understand compassion. how to make a dent, right? Each one of those families has an impact fund. The key is, can we focus it in the right direction to be able to help? And what kind of dent can they make? And they seem to be much more active than they were before. I mean, I talked to a number of them, a couple of times a week. And the difference that was before 10 years ago to now is that the younger members of some of the wealthiest families in the world are now actively involved. And so it's getting to them and talking about it and really go, it's back to the old IBM sell to the top. You got to go right to the people that's got the money and talk to them instead of, it's using the power of the press is interesting, but it's better to convince the people directly, from my own opinion, because they do have compassion. And once you explain it to them, they become much more interested. But on the other side of it, we got to make sure, we've got to take these fuel cell batteries. We've got to talk about how we can feed more people faster. Those kind of things are going to be really important for us. And the good news is it's happening. And artificial intelligence, AI is the new electricity. So we need to understand how to use AI wisely.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Gary. And like you said, it's important to help educate these big funds on the need for compassion and keeping a world for the future generation. And Kingsley has mentioned that it's the youth that will drive the adoption of these technologies. And so there has to be a synergy between the two parties to make sure that something is built stable for the future. And this is an opportunity for the audience. I've been seeing a couple of comments appreciating LATOKEN and LATOKEN VCTV. I see you. I appreciate your comments. And I want you guys to keep the questions coming. If you have any questions about clean tech, green tech, or for example, which stock do I invest in the clean energy or green sector? Ask our audience. They're here to give you feedback, and we look forward to more comments on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And then this is also a message out to investors, projects, entrepreneurs, businessmen. You have a project that you feel is worthy of exposure or funding, reach out to the LATOKEN VCTV team, and we can organize a session for you to pitch live on VCTV and get some feedback and exposure for your project. So, guys, back to the topic of the day. Thanks for your feedback so far. I'm going to come and jump from the question about penalizing the biggest investors in fossil fuel and jump into the fact that right now, compared to other sectors of the world, there are I may be wrong, but correct me if I'm wrong. Do you think there are sufficient startups that are involved in green tech, clean tech, or environmental tech? Are they enough, or should more be done to encourage startups by the big companies that are investing or building projects in this direction? Shalish, you are obviously an investor in this sector and you have a lot of investments in this sector. But do you think that there are enough startups building products around this industry?
Yeah, in fact, in India, there is I would say, a good amount of spurt in startups in EVs space and battery management. Since and before that, let me just come back to your previous question, whether there should be a regulatory support for the green tech and clean tech by banning the fossil fuel. I said yes to some extent. Let me quote you the recent example of GDPR. In case of GDPR, which is a mandatory in Europe, where all sort of a data control. So the kind of tailwind it has got to all the startups in that particular field, I think that is quite phenomenal. So while embarking on a new technology or on a new field, while giving fillip to the new field like green tech and clean tech, definitely I would say regulatory support is much more required and it is much more advocable also. So coming back to startups in green tech and clean tech in India, yes, definitely there is a lot of interest. We come across a lot of startups into a lot of I would say the new application use cases, and some of the ideas are really path breaking. And interestingly, all these ideas are now getting a good amount of I would say audiences also, especially from the investor community. So I would say the bulk of the I would say the reason is in emerging markets, especially in Asia and Asia Pacific countries. The passenger, apart from the passenger cars, there are some two-wheelers and three-wheelers in these geographies, which are being, let's say, effectively used by most of the e-coms for the last mile delivery. So these two-wheelers and three-wheelers, which have been used for the last mile delivery, these have been, I would say, at a, at a crux of the, changing the technology as far as GreenTech is concerned. Because, these are most cost effective solutions. And these are basically a long-term sustainable solutions also. So I would say, you name any e-com companies in India and in Asia, which is, I would say, slowly, shifting its base from the ICE vehicles to, I would say, to the EVs. And there is also one more, I would say, interesting trend which is getting picked up is, unlike, let's say, a lithium-ion battery charging, these are the technology we came across recently is the startups which have come out with a unique technology called a supercapacitor. Now, this supercapacitor is basically charged for hardly about 10 minutes or 5-10 minutes, and they can run for another, I would say, 10 to 15 kilometers on basis on that 10 minutes charging. So what happens, the last mile delivery person who comes to basically pick up the a food order at a restaurant, till the time he gets the delivery of that food parcel from the restaurant, he keeps the vehicle charging for about 5 to 10 minutes. And then probably after getting the vehicle charged for 5 to 10 minutes, he is basically all set for the next 10 to 15 kilometers run based on that 5-minute charging, which is much more cost efficient and it doesn't disturb the, I would say, the supply chain also. So these are the quite unique concepts and the use cases which we come across. And we find that probably, yes, going forward, these are the path-breaking ideas which probably you will find a greater audiences from the investment community like us.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Shalish. And it's interesting to hear that these green tech, these solutions are trickling down to the everyday user. And when last mile delivery, and we know the amount you could probably have in India, then you could surely see slow adoption into two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and ultimately the big boys, the four-wheelers. And that's great to hear. But Kingsley, back to you. Do you think that enough is being done from your own knowledge of Africa and where you're from by to encourage startups into green tech, to adopting green tech? And what is your take on big companies investing in small companies that work in green tech?
Okay, green tech itself is still very new. I think we got into this around 2014, 2013, and when you look at the market, it's a new market that still have real potential to grow. Enough is not being done yet. There is no enough startups. Yes, there's a lot of startups here and there, but when you look at the world in general, a lot can still be done. We are just starting from the beginning. It's like blockchain. Blockchain is also very young. So there's still a lot of things that can be done in that aspect. A lot of startup companies can still come up with different ideas on how to make the world a better place. But above all that, we are putting responsibilities on government, on big companies. We as individuals also have a very big role to play. We as citizens have a big role to play. For example, when I came to Japan newly, we were putting all their garbage together. Gradually, they taught the public how to change, and plastic is plastic. With burnable, unburnable, these are simple ethics that everybody is now used to. Nobody throw garbage anywhere or just trash here, trash there. No. When you go to developing countries, you see them just they drain and then they throw it out of the window. This for me is not the problem of the government. This is a problem of people not be of the people. We have to learn to be disciplined. If you want to be helped, you have to help yourself. So we have to start from ourselves in discipline in a way that we are able to maintain the environment around us. And once we do that, the bigger companies will also see that we are putting effort as an investor. If you are not putting effort in your project that you are presenting to me, I'm not going to put my money in it. Your passion, your discipline, the way you go about that project is what encourages me to put my money or not. So let's not put all blame on the government or big companies. We as individuals, we as citizens of the world have a very big role to play when it comes to green tech, environmental tech, and all the other tech that we have, because it's a way of life. If we don't understand that way of life, there is no way the government will make regulations to affect that way of life.
There's
no way the big companies will invest, or people like me will invest in that way of life. So that is all we need. We need to make sure that we are practicing what we are preaching, and then naturally we invest to just come and put our money into it because the system is already in place.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. That feedback was important because it helps the audience know that there is a role, an active role they have to play in making decisions to conserve the environment and save energy and be more responsible for the kind of energy they consume. I think in that light, I want to make a confession, not a confession per se, but I mean, recently I have alternative power that is petrol powered, and I know the amount of money it costs me to burn fuel every day, aside the noise pollution, then the engine oil and all that mess. So I went out to get solar power with this inverter backup, and I've been using it. And what I found out is that there is much more quiet. Noise pollution is down significantly, 90% for me. I can't say that for my neighbors. And I found out that I only use my petrol generator once in about 14 days, which to me is a step in the right direction. And if everybody took that idea, that initiative forward, I'm sure it will lead to adopting much more greener technology. Then investors like you will be encouraged to invest more in this direction. So,
Exactly. It costs more. It costs more to have power in Africa, in Nigeria especially, than Japan. What I pay for my place in VI is more expensive than what I pay in Japan. Because you have house management that will make sure you have 24 hours light and things like that. What you are paying for that is higher than is double what you pay in Japan. So the more disciplined we are on how we use our resources, the more conservative it will become for us and effective.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. Yeah, it's important, and people might not understand. The audience might not understand how important this is, how human behavior affects startups and government. It's that once human behavior begins to shift to a much more green and energy conscious side, projects should be interested in developing solutions more in this direction. Then investors can also be ready to invest in these projects to create a much more sustainable environment. So I mean, it's thanks for that insight, Kingsley. Gary, I know you live in a developed society where there is a lot of investments and Silicon Valley and all that. Is enough being done to invest in green technology? And big organizations, techs, are they more responsible and conscious of their energy, fossil fuel consumption, or carbon emission to the environment? You are mute. You're mute, Gary.
About that. I said the situation in Silicon Valley has always had a kind of a green toe in terms of focuses on these types of technologies. So we've always been, or a green thumb, we've always been around that kind of environment, but it's really been highlighted lately with all the changes that are taking place. And as Africa rises, India rises, China rises. I mean, there's a lot of demands in all kinds of different places today. So it's really encouraging. Are they doing enough? Well, I mean, the situation, they're never doing enough, are they? There's always more that can be done. Are a lot of the companies moving in a better direction than they were? Absolutely. Around the world, look at Philips with our friend Stanley from he actually last week was down in Uganda, and they're really focused on renewables. So there's a lot of initiatives, and at the same time, companies like Shell are saying, they understand that the writing's on the wall. They're not going to be around. The fossil fuels, we're just not going to be around. We hit peak oil. We start to, as it starts to go down, there won't be oil. There need to be other types of systems. So solar, fuel cells, etc., lithium fluoride batteries. So it's a new world, and the companies that don't switch are going to die. The companies, as we say with artificial intelligence, if we don't use it to be able to help us to optimize, they're going to die. So it's a great time, and the largest companies in the world are forced now to be able to focus on it. They're forced to be able to show that they're socially conscious, they're environmentally conscious, and they're making an impact. They have no choice right now. And again, as I said, some of the top family offices, also the younger generations, are focused on making a little dent in the universe. So it's a great time, but it's never good enough. But it's moving in the right direction.
Thank you very much, Gary. Wonderful. And I'm sure the audience have a lot of information to soak in during this session. And I just want to reach out to them and let them know that this session is available on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and on Facebook. So you could go back, watch it all over again, pick up little information you missed, and maybe use that as a benchmark for making your next investment choice or startup choice. Quickly, we have come to the very end of today's show. Just before we go, I'll be taking like one last shot from each of you. And I know Gary mentioned something about companies and bodies being more responsible towards their investment and deployment of green energy and clean tech and all. But Shalish, do you think, is there a central body that can be referred to measure how companies are adopting, either adopting or investing in green tech, environmental tech, like an ISO standard? Is there something like that for companies to be measured by and, in quotes, ranked by?
Yeah, Nathaniel, I would say that in that context, probably I think if the Sustainable Development Goals score, we call it SDG index, need to be part of the annual report for each and every company going forward. So the moment you find that particular, reporting of carbon emission under SDG index is mandatory, becomes mandatory, then probably I would say that it will have a good tailwind effect of their investment channelizing into green tech and clean tech. And that's how most of the big corporates or big enterprises would be, I would say, forced to invest into these sort of emerging technologies.
Thank you very much, Shalish. And just before you go, what's your parting shot over this topic? Investments in green tech, clean tech, environmental tech. Do you have any last words?
I think this is the future, I would say. The green tech and clean tech is the future. I think some of the countries from Europe and Japan, they've already said that by 2030, it will be a hard stop for all the IC vehicles. I would say going forward, unless and until you are having a green tech or a clean tech solution, you would be, I would say, going forward would be redundant in its absence, I would say.
Thank you very much, Shalish. And Kingsley, your parting words, your last shot.
It's very simple in life: adapt or die. Don't adapt, you die. If you don't change, the change will pass you. So I don't think they really have a choice here. They have to adapt. Countries are going to adapt. People are going to adapt because green tech and environmental tech are here to stay. The way we do things will be the same anymore, especially with what the pandemic have taught us to be more cleaner, more hygienic, and things like that. So definitely, it's going to be something that is in Japan, for example, by 2030, 2035, it's already going to be all green tech and things like that. But for countries like Nigeria, it may take longer, but they will catch up, right? So it's all about step by step. But you will be surprised that if somebody comes tomorrow and said, I want to do this for Nigeria right now. Take, for example, all the estates you have in BI or Lekki, right? They build all these estates and then they put heavy petrol or diesel generators in those places. Why not change those heavy diesel or heavy petrol generators into solar grid that will hold the energy, and then put solar in all the houses? You're already managing it. You already have a management company that does that management. So why not use that system and say, okay, we have this green tech environment that you can live with no noise, with no pollution, and you just pay a little more. And at the long run, you're going to pay less because you are using natural sunlight. So it's a question of educating the people to adapt to the new system. It's just a twist. How do you make them believe or make them change their mindset to embrace it? So it's all about the community. Educate the community to embrace it, not impose it on the community. Like come here. It's different. It's the way you approach. Our approach has to be very subtle to allow investors to come in.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. And I know that, especially in the environment that we are in Nigeria, there are a lot of political interest and other interest in having the status quo remain the same. So it will take a significant amount of education incentive for most emerging countries or Nigeria, for example, to switch from the traditional way to this new way. It's healthier, it's quieter and less expensive. And I think if you are African out there or Nigerian out there listening to this show, this is a wake-up call for you to take an active role in advocating for green tech. The future of our generation would do well and do better in a cleaner and healthier environment. Gary, as we round up, your parting shots for the audience.
Yeah, I mean, the encouraging news is that there are countries around the world that have made, and states around the world have made decisions to really move forward with electric vehicles and ban fossil fuel. Places like Canada, China, new car sales, Costa Rica by 2050, Egypt by 2040, Israel, Japan by 2035 for new vehicle sales. So it's already started. And the situation, this is a preview of coming attractions. So I'm very encouraged. This is a great time for each and every one of us. Remember, intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. So the key is going around the world, educating and looking for those very cool technologies that can really make a dent in the universe. The lithium fluoride batteries, actually, when I was in Russia, actually had seen those incredible batteries. There are opportunities. It's about getting that knowledge out and using that knowledge, just like we've been able to do with the COVID vaccines, to be able to develop and use an AI and modeling instead of bench time, we need to do that with these technologies too. We just need to move faster. I'm encouraged because it's happening. It just we need to stay on track and keep moving faster. You can reach me, Gary Fowler, on LinkedIn. You can get me on Twitter. I have some shows every week, and tune into my shows, get some really cool guests like yourself, Nathaniel, Kingsley, Shalish. So tune in, and it'd be great to hear from you. So stay happy, stay focused, get stuff done, and focus on clean tech.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much, every one of you. You have obviously contributed more knowledge to the audience out there, and I want to encourage them again. If you have a project that is clean tech oriented, reach out to us. We could help you arrange a pitching session. Kingsley or Shalish might be interested, or even Gary, and you pitch live on the show to thousands of people and the audience and the panel in front of us. Today's show has been quite informative. We cannot deal with all the topics involved, but it's been enlightening. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for contributing. We've come to the end of the first show of the week, and we look forward to many other shows. The audience, watch out for the next show happening in a few minutes with my colleague Sonny Mohanty. And guys, thank you for coming on, and hope to see you guys on the next show or another show where I moderate. Thanks, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.